June 17th, 2010, Louisville, Kentucky. What begins as a seemingly routine domestic dispute quickly spirals into something far more sinister. In Old Louisville, a man calls 911 from inside the Victorian home he shares with his boyfriend, saying the other man is trying to smash through a bedroom door with a hammer. It's clear it's no ordinary domestic disturbance, because before the night ends, the man on the other side of that door will tell police there is a body buried in the basement. This is a story of murder, drugs, sex, a drag queen, counterfeit money, 2 unbelievable trials, and lovers who turn on each other like 2 cats in a pillowcase. This is a case of he said, or he said he slayed. This is the murder of Jamie Carroll, buried under 4th Street, Part 2. Hey y'all, I'm Kris Calvert.
And I'm her husband, Rob Podorf. Welcome to Hitched to Homicide.
For better or worse.
Till death do us part.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yes, welcome. And for our friends all the way over there in Kenya.
Kenya?
Yep. I feel like Mike Myers all of a sudden in Wayne's World. Sodawa.
We were watching this the other night. It doesn't get old. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's one of his better movies.
Well, wherever you're listening, be sure to subscribe to Hitched to Homicide, then like, rate, and review the podcast so others who love true crime and are just like you can find us. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button below. If you want true crime with us all the time, please join our closed Facebook group, The In-Laws and Outlaws. Go to Facebook and type in H2H In-Laws and Outlaws. Answer a couple questions. You are in. Go join. We got
Please
people
do.
coming in by the droves lately.
We do.
I post photos and other information in there as well. It's a great group of true crime folks. We love them so much.
Yes, we do.
You can find us on Instagram at Hitched to Homicide or on X at H2H_podcast. And we have a Buy Me a Coffee link if you want to send Rob some coffee.
Look at that.
You're drinking it right now. You can find that link in our show notes. You can also send us a message to the link to that is at the bottom of the show notes. I tried to get through that without tongue twisting, but I couldn't make it. We're going back to Old Louisville again this week to finish off this case, the he said case.
All right.
I've got lots to tell you, and it's going to get weird.
Like it wasn't already.
Well, then weirder.
Okay, thank you.
Before we get started, let me thank some sources, and there are a bunch of them. Mundt versus the Commonwealth, WDRB in Louisville, A&E, USA Today, People Magazine, Biography.com, ABC7 in Chicago, Oxygen's Snapped, the Louisville Courier-Journal, and Murder in Glitterball City on HBO. There's also a book that the HBO special is based on called A Dark Room in Glitterball City by David Domine. I will have a link to his book in the show notes along with all the other sources. And I just want to say this now before we get started. Glitterball. Just spinning like a disco ball.
Mm-hmm.
That's a disco ball.
Okay.
And the man who invented it is from Louisville.
Oh, really?
And so that's where the glitter ball, and he called it a glitter ball. So that's where the whole glitter ball thing in Louisville comes from with the title of these, with the HBO special and his book.
Gotcha. All right. Well, you ready?
I am.
Let's do it.
When we last left off last week, Joey Banis, lover to Jeff Mundt, is in the back of a patrol car telling Sergeant Trey McKnight that he knows about a murder that isn't even on Louisville PD's radar, and that there's a body buried in the basement of Jeff Mundt, the man who just called 911 to have his lover Joey arrested for allegedly trying to break down the door of his bedroom with a hammer.
Right.
There's a body in his basement. The house they had just left at 1435 South 4th Street in Old Louisville. And everything Joey Banis is about to tell the police all started with an invitation. Both Jeff Mundt and Joey Banis invited meth dealer, hairstylist, and drag queen Jamie Carroll to Jeff's house on 4th Street, and they had both met Jamie online, and Jamie agreed to come to the house and hang out. And what unfolded that night, everyone agrees, involved methamphetamine and sex. And all three men used drugs and engaged in what's described as a meth-fueled threesome. There was pornography, there were weapons in the house, and there was an undercurrent of jealousy and tension. But when it comes to what actually happened in the moments when Jamie Carroll died, the story splits in two. And Joey Banis, angry that Jeff Mundt has called the cops on him, knowing he has a rap sheet and will more than likely be sent back to prison, he tattles on Jeff.
Yeah.
There's a body in Jeff's basement. Now, when this whole investigation starts to unravel on the night of June 17th, the A&E show, The First 48, is filming in Louisville. How fortuitous.
Yeah.
So the First 48, they just go into different cities and film and see if anything interesting happens. But they are there to document all of this on the night Jeff calls 911 to say that Joey's trying to get into his room, and Joey tells police in the back of the car that there's a dead body in the basement. And Sergeant McKnight phones this information up the ladder to Detective John Lesher. And the cops think that Joey just doesn't want to go to jail, so he's going to offer up some information. He's trying to cut a deal.
Sure.
But they don't know if he's telling the truth or not. And he tells them it all happened after Thanksgiving, 6 months ago. And they want to know why Joey has waited so long to tell. If there's a dead body in this basement, why have you waited so long?
Yeah.
And he tells police, quote, Jeff told me if I ever told anyone, he would kill me. I believed him, end quote.
Wow.
And the police know Joey Banis because he's been in trouble for drugs and theft. And Detective Lesher brings in Detective Colin King, who's newer to the Homicide Division. And Lesher has like 11 years or so. So these two are going to kind of tag team Joey and Jeff.
Okay.
Now, when they get Joey into a room to chat with him, he confesses that, yes, I'm a meth smoker. But that didn't mean there wasn't a body in Jeff Mundt's basement.
Yeah.
And police are like, let me get this straight. The house we just came from, where Jeff Mundt called us to come get you, there's a body in that basement? He's like, yeah. And Jeff killed him. Quote, my boyfriend had lied somehow and gotten the police there and had me arrested for something that I didn't do, end quote. And they ask him, look, Joey, why now? Why tell us this now? And he says, I wasn't able to tell anybody in the beginning because, quote, one, I was scared for myself, scared for my family, and I was also in love with this guy. But over the past 7 or 8 months, I'm no longer in love with him. And somebody's just got to know the truth, end quote.
Okay.
So it's now about 4 a.m. Joey draws a detailed map of where they will find this body. Not only am I telling you there's a body in the basement, let me show you where to find it.
Right.
But he tells them, look, you can't sit on this information because Jeff's had a contractor in there and he's going to pour concrete over this basement floor. It's now or never. So the police go back to the house on 4th Street. Detective King goes back to ask Jeff some questions. And Jeff tells Detective King, quote, I tried to break up with him, meaning Joey, and he threatened to kill me, threatened to frame me for murder, end quote. And then they ask Jeff, well, like, how is he going to frame you for murder? Because remember, Jeff has no idea that Joey has offered this information up in the back of the cruiser.
Right.
And Jeff says, quote,
what? I had no idea.
I had no idea, end quote.
Nah.
So they ask Jeff, do you mind to come to the station, answer some questions? And they take Jeff to headquarters and leave Detective Colin King behind with a search warrant and some other officers and some shovels. Now, when they bring Jeff into chat, he's very interested in where the cameras are and in being a part of this First 48 show.
Think I'm ready for my close-up.
He's asking where he's supposed to be facing.
Oh, geez.
Like, where am I supposed to be looking? And the detective is kind of like shaking his head like, dude, this isn't Hollywood. This is a real investigation.
Yeah.
And you are a big part of it. Of course, he's not saying this. But when Detective King leaves the room, he's even trying to chat up the cameraman. I mean, Jeff is trying to chat up the cameraman. Are you guys from Louisville? That's what he says to him. And they're like, dude, we're in the background.
Yeah.
And Jeff is this charming guy when he wants to be. And he and Detective King are having a decent conversation. Jeff is acting like he wants to be very cooperative, and he's just a victim in this whole mess of a night. And he tells Detective King that Joey had beaten him up, that there was a lot of domestic violence, and that he was worried about his own safety and his family's safety, and of course, his cats. Now, meanwhile, back at 1435 South 4th Street, police go into the basement with Joey's map, and they see some loose dirt, and they start shoveling. And about 5 feet down, they hit a big Rubbermaid bin. And one of the officers who's digging accidentally tips the lid with his shovel. Not on purpose, he's just digging, and he hits the corner of it.
Right.
And when he does this, the smell of death hits them all
Ugh.
in the face.
Wow.
They get this 50-gallon bin out of this hole, and they get it to the medical examiner's office. And they also start doing a sweep of this house, starting with Jeff's bedroom. And this is where they find bloodstains and a bullet hole in the wall. And when they ask Jeff about this, he acts as if he has no idea what they're talking about. He tells them, with Joey, you just never know what's fake and what's real, and I never know what he's going to do. And, quote, he would tell all kinds of stories to make his life more interesting, end quote. You mean like saying that you work for the NSA and you killed a bunch of people, maybe?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe like speaking with a British accent. Remember, he was speaking with a British accent at Northwestern.
Top of the morning to ya.
Yep.
Find it all ironic, because this is a guy who's denying knowing about a body in his basement, who has pretended to be British and has pretended to be like a killer for the NSA.
Right.
All Joey's ever said is that he's a meth addict. And believe me, I'm not defending Joey. I think they're both guilty of Jamie Carroll's murder.
Sure.
But Jeff says to the detective at around 10 or 11 o'clock the next morning, they've all been up all night long. And I quote, through the anguish and tears, quote, "Can you tell me whether there's somebody buried in my house?" End quote. And Detective King confirms to Jeff, "We found a body in your basement." And Jeff clutches his pearls and gasps. He just can't believe it.
And the Oscar goes to...
And the Oscar goes to...
Not Jeff.
Yeah.
He's not that good.
Now, Jeff asks, who is it? Who is it? And they say, well, we have an idea of who it is. And he's crying and saying, quote, "God, Joey, how could you do something like this?" End quote.
Wow.
Then he says, quote, "I just can't imagine somebody being killed in my basement," end quote. Well, hold the phone. Who said he was killed in your basement?
Yeah.
The police only knew there was a body buried there, right?
Yeah.
At least to Jeff's knowledge. He's not as smart as he thinks he is.
Right.
But when they go to tell Joey that they found the body, the first thing he says is, what do you think he says? When they say, "We found the body, you drew us the map, we found the body." What do you think he says?
I have no idea.
Quote, "I didn't do it."
I didn't do it.
End quote. Joey tells the police that the body is that of Jamie Carroll, that they had invited him over to do drugs and have a threesome. He tells them that Jamie and Jeff were in bed together, naked, and, quote, "Before I knew it, Jeff stabbed Jamie. Jamie jumped up there. Blood was flying. Jeff pulled out a revolver. And again, before I knew it, he had shot Jamie," end quote. Now, don't forget, Joey Banis is not a stranger to the police. They know he's got 8 felony convictions, and
Sure.
they know he's on parole. And
Yep.
I think right off the bat, perhaps they don't think he's a reliable witness, right?
Yeah.
And he's earned that for sure. So they don't know if they're believing everything Joey is saying. He tells them that he dug the grave and that Jeff threatened to kill him and throw him in the grave too if he didn't help. And when the coroner looks at the body, he can see that there's 1 gunshot wound and 6 stab wounds, which is very consistent with what Joey has told them about how it all went down.
Right.
But they think he's lying about who committed the murder. Because on one hand, they have a guy who's never had a run-in with the law, who's an IT specialist, who's worked at the university. And on the other, they have Joey Banis, right?
Yeah.
They arrest Joey, who says, "Fine, but I want to talk to my dad and I want to get an attorney." And he tells Detective Lesher that by this point, he should have been bonded out or something should have happened. And this is when Detective Lesher says, "Do you see all this mud on me? I just went and dug up a body out of that basement." To which Joey says, quote, "Just like I said," end quote.
There you go.
They ask him if he's ready to talk, and he says, "I don't want to say anything until I speak with my attorney. But," quote, "everything I told you panned out, correct?" End quote.
Mm-hmm.
They go back in to talk to Jeff, and they tell him what they know. And somewhere in one of these conversations, Jeff says the name Jamie when they're talking about the body in the basement. And the police immediately pick up on this, like, wait, hold up, Jeff.
Yeah.
We thought you didn't know anything about the body in your basement. They tell Jeff that they want to clear his name. "Look, we just want to clear your name because you're such a victim. Will you go take a polygraph test?" And he says, "Sure." Quote, "I don't have anything to hide," end quote. And the first 48 is still taping all of this. And as they're walking to the exam room, Jeff has this creepy smirk on his face, like, "I'm gonna get away with murder." Not even kidding you.
Wow.
They start the preliminary interview with Jeff in the polygraph, what's your name, that kind of thing. And then the guy who's giving the test, and I don't know if it's because the polygraph guy had to get up, in the middle of the night or early in the morning, but he says something to the effect of, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he basically says, "Jeff, did you kill somebody?"
Yeah. Let's get to the point.
Yeah. And to this, Jeff says, quote, "To murder somebody is not something I could ever even contemplate doing," end quote, which isn't an answer, right?
Right.
And then the polygraph guy goes, again, I'm paraphrasing, "Look it, if you know about this murder or if you're going to tell me something different than what you told Detective Lesher, not Dr. Lesher, Detective Lesher,
Right.
this isn't going to go well for you."
Right.
And up to this point, Jeff has denied.
Deny.
Yep.
And he has said that he didn't know anything about this. Remember, he's cried about them finding somebody in his basement.
Right.
And when he's asked, "Did you know anything about the murder?" he says, "My answer would have to be, yes, I did know something about this murder."
He's changing his story
Yeah.
already.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to give him this polygraph, and suddenly he's like, "Okay, well,
Yeah.
damn it.
Dang it.
I'm going to have to come clean."
Dang it.
I think he actually believed he could get away with passing the polygraph.
Yeah.
And then decided if he wanted to be believed, he couldn't come off as a liar.
Right.
So he says, "Yes, I did know something about the murder." And when Detective Lesher gets him back in the interrogation room, he's like, "Dude, after all this crying and acting shocked, you actually knew all about this."
Yeah.
And there's this whole thing about Willy Wonka and this golden ticket. Detective Lesher gives him a piece of yellow paper and is like, "Willy Wonka, that's your golden ticket." And I swear to you, the video isn't even all that clear, but you can see that Jeff knows he's smarter than Detective Lesher. He's almost sitting there like, what's happening right now?
Yeah.
I mean, he's so arrogant.
Wow.
And Jeff says, "Would you like to know the true story? I was there. Joey invited this guy over. I don't remember his name. You mean the name you've already mentioned? He was a drug dealer. Joey cut the guy's throat. Joey cut the guy's throat." That's called foreshadowing. Yep. He said that he and Joey started struggling. Joey grabbed, quote, "I believe it was a revolver," and shot the guy, end quote. It's the exact story that Joey has told police, and Detective Lesher wants to know why he lied before, and Jeff's explanation is that Joey has told me that if I refuse to help him, he would, quote, "kill me and my family and
My cat.
my cat." After police hear the stories from both of them, they think that they brought Jamie Carroll to the house on 4th Street to steal his drugs and his cash, and then they stabbed him and shot him and buried him in the basement, both of them together. They are both arrested for murder, robbery, and tampering with evidence. But these two are both sticking to their stories. And while the Louisville Metro Police Department is trying to get in touch with Ellen, Jamie's mom, they realize they're going to have to tell her, "This is what's happened to your son."
Oh, man.
Now, after they arrest them both, Jeff is worried about
Cats, and more cats.
his cats. He's telling them that they can't arrest him because no one's going to take care of his Charles Dickens Pickwick paper named cats.
Oh, man.
Jeff and Joey are going to be tried separately. And the Commonwealth attorney, by the way, Kentucky's not a state, it's a Commonwealth. So we have a Commonwealth attorney,
Right.
is going to go after Joey first. Low-hanging fruit, right? He's
Right.
been charged with murder along with all the other charges. And in Kentucky, we have the death penalty for murder. And in order to make sure they get a conviction, the prosecution offers Jeff a deal. Testify against Joey, and we will take the death penalty off the table when you go to trial. And as you might imagine, Jeff is more than happy to do this.
Sure.
Joey's defense team is Darren Wolf and Justin Brown. Two really smart guys, by the way. And because this is a he said, the defense team needs to make it as horrible and as uncomfortable as possible for Jeff on the witness stand.
Okay.
Jeff is smart, he's manipulative, and Jeff's attorneys can see how Joey's trial plays out. And now they're going to know what witnesses are going to say. So there aren't as many surprises. He's really getting an advantage out of this.
Okay.
The Honorable Mitch Perry is presiding when the trial starts in February of 2013. There's a love triangle, kinky sex, a drag queen. It's a 3-ring circus in the media.
Wow.
I should say it's a reporter's dream come true.
You know what? This sounds like an HBO series.
Because it is.
Yeah, okay.
The Commonwealth attorney, Ryan Conroy, who is a woman, by the way, and Josh Schneider opened by showing the 50-gallon Rubbermaid container, talking about Jamie and saying Joey was sitting in the courtroom, but he didn't act alone. And I will say this about the Commonwealth attorneys. Even though they're prosecuting Joey, the whole time they're saying he did this, but he didn't do it alone, right? Because they still want to get Jeff when his trial comes around.
Right.
Joey's defense team, Darren Wolf and Justin Brown, tell the jury that Jeff, not Joey, is the killer, and they offered a motive for Jeff to end Jamie Carroll's life. It was jealousy. Jeff was jealous of the relationship that Joey and Jamie had. And the night Jamie is murdered, Joey and Jamie were having sex like they always did when they were together. Jeff was the jealous one with motive, and he had everything to gain by blaming Joey because he was the spurned boyfriend.
Right.
Ryan Conroy calls the police from that faithful night to the witness stand in order just to establish a timeline. And Detective Lesher, who's the lead detective, he's on the witness stand. And Joey's legal team accuses the Louisville Metro Police Department and Detective Lesher of being biased against Joey from the get-go, because they knew him and they immediately dismissed him as possibly being innocent, even though he's the one who told them about the body in the basement.
Right.
And when they ask the detective about Jeff, the detectives on the case say, well, Jeff was very cooperative, which is easy when you're lying your butt off.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeff takes the witness stand. He's all dressed up in a suit, and they show a photo of Jeff smoking meth, just so the jury knows who he really is.
Yeah.
He tells the story of being pulled off of Jamie and Joey stabbing or slicing his throat and then shooting Jamie. And then he says, Joey pointed the gun at me and told me I had a choice, which was either to help him or to be killed right then and there. And Jeff tells the court that he and Joey buried the body together. He talks about breaking Jamie's bones to fit him into the Rubbermaid container.
Ugh.
And he talks about how he was surprised how easily it could be done. Quote, I don't remember it being a particularly difficult task, end quote.
Wow.
He's cold and calculated and quite honestly, a psychopath.
Yeah.
He's more worried about his cats. He tells the jury this. He tells the court this, that after it was all over and Jamie was dead, he was more worried about his cats walking into the blood
Yeah.
after he said Joey killed him than actually witnessing a murder.
Man.
But Jeff tells the jury that he was scared and that he kept the secret of the body buried in his basement because if he didn't, Joey said he would kill him, his family, and the cats. And he told him that he would either kill him or have somebody else do it. And Jeff is really poised and smart on the witness stand, but he's also kind of condescending to everyone, which kind of tracks with how he treated people he worked with. Remember, he would throw people's reports back in their faces, right? If it wasn't the correct font and at 14 points.
Right.
Joey's attorneys cross-examined Jeff and asked after he lied for 5 hours to the police, why should anybody believe anything he said now? And they called him out on all of his discrepancies in his story. Honestly, they did a better job of prosecuting Jeff than the prosecutors are going to do when they actually go to trial. And when they asked him why he lied about knowing, he said it was because there were TV cameras in his face. But they reminded him that he tried to have conversations with them.
Yeah.
Jeff's trying to control the narrative, and Joey's attorney gets all up in his business to remind him who's in charge. It's pretty incredible. I like Joey's attorneys. It's pretty incredible what they're doing there because he tries to go on and explain something that he wasn't asked. And he's like, did I ask you that? You only answer what I ask you. I mean, it was like,
Did you order the code red?
Did you order the code red?
exactly. They go through Jeff's dating profile and make him explain all of the kinky things he likes to do sexually. And these attorneys are really shocked by all of this. It's kind of funny. They want to expose his kinks. They want to show that he's not this mild-mannered IT guy, and maybe he is the kind of guy who could kill somebody, especially if he's a controlling, meth-fueled jerk who's jealous and completely drugged out, right?
Right.
The defense calls the contractor, Kenny Robertson, the man that Jeff met with like not long before Joey told the cops that Jamie's in the basement.
Right.
They meet on the 26th of May, and Jeff had asked him to pour concrete in his basement. 4 inches of concrete. Kenny said that when he was measuring for the concrete, Jeff wouldn't go into that part of the basement where the police would later discover the body, and Kenny needed help holding the tape measure. And when the prosecution rests, Joey has not taken the stand. They thought about putting him up there, but if they did, the Commonwealth attorneys would bring up all of his felonies, and they're also aware of this so-called confession video, remember?
Right.
Where he's reading off of the paper in the hotel room and he's got a gun.
Yep.
And the prosecution did not show this video to the jury. And the Commonwealth attorney doesn't do this, right? And the defense attorneys are like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Why aren't they showing this? If they really want to slam dunk, why aren't they showing this?
Right.
But Joey's attorneys thought if he testifies, then the Commonwealth attorney is going to show up with this video to wreck his credibility.
Sure.
But what about the beginning and the ending of this video? Hang on.
Okay.
Ryan Conroy tells the jury that yes, Joey is guilty. And there are interviews with some of the jury members in Joey's case. And they've said from that trial that Jeff seemed like he was the mastermind. Now, it must be a unanimous decision of the jury. So Joey's team really only needs one person. And the first afternoon into the night, the jury goes to a hotel. They can't make a decision. So the next morning at 10 a.m., the jury returns with a verdict. Joey Banis is found guilty of murder, robbery, tampering with evidence, 3 counts of criminal possession of a forged instrument, possession of drug paraphernalia, and possession of methamphetamines.
Wow.
Now, this same jury will decide his fate. So the defense team goes to the prosecution for a deal. And after 5 hours, Joey agrees that if they take the death penalty off the table and he's eligible for parole in 25 years, he will take a deal and he will be a witness for the Commonwealth's case against Jeff Mundt. And according to Commonwealth attorney Ryan Conroy, making Jeff Mundt look guilty doesn't make Joey look any less guilty.
Right.
May 13th, 2009, it's Jeff's turn to be on the witness stand, to be on trial. And it's the same prosecution team for the Commonwealth. And Jeff Mundt's attorney is Steve Romines. And this dude is like a smart, scrappy, southern, savvy, foghorn, leghorn criminal defense attorney.
Now, who's responsible for this unwarranted attack on my person?
Yep.
And his co-counsel is Ted Schaus. And Steve Romines wins a lot. He's very theatrical.
Okay.
And Steve Romines opens with the tearful 911 call. Then Steve Romines tells the jury that the fateful night when the fight happened and Joey told the police about Jamie Carroll in the basement, Jeff had told Joey that he was going to tell. He couldn't take it anymore. And Joey told him, I'm going to kill you and your family and
Your cats.
your cats. And I will blame it on you and send you to prison, end quote. Steve tells the jury that Jeff is a choir boy until he met Joey. He'd never done drugs. He was a straight-laced dude who suffered at the hands of Joey, just like Jamie Carroll. He was just as much a victim as the dead man in the basement. And the Commonwealth attorney has the police on the stand, and they talk about how Jeff was the dominant in the sexual relationship and the mastermind behind the relationship, the sex and the murder of Jamie. He tells the court that for someone who was deathly afraid of Joey, he sure was taking sweet photos with him for Christmas, just weeks after burying Jamie. And then the defense pulls out the confession video. They call it their smoking gun.
Yep.
So not the before or the after. And according to Steve Romines, the prosecution had never seen this video. The Commonwealth attorneys had never seen this video.
Really?
Yeah. And the reason they didn't have it for Joey's trial is because it was found on Joey's Mac laptop.
Okay.
And the Louisville Metro Police didn't find anything on this computer, which they seized, because they used a PC to try to do forensics on it.
You've got to be kidding me.
Really? You don't have a better IT guy than that?
Man, they needed to call Jeff.
Yeah. And again, just to remind you, this is what the confession tape says. Quote, I'm recording my death for the purpose of informing all concerned of my own willful suicide and the complete non-involvement or culpability of anyone else, specifically of my boyfriend, lover, life partner, and friend, my one, Jeffrey Stephen Mundt. You will notice that he is sitting or lying on the bed near me. It is only because I have a gun pointed at him, end quote. And then, of course, he pans over to Jeff, who's lying on this bed in a hotel room, but he's not really paying attention.
Yeah.
Quote, I am holding him hostage because I have failed him and hurt him and done terrible things which I can never recover from. This includes killing someone who, and he pauses, this includes killing someone, end quote. But again, in the beginning of the video, which the defense doesn't show, you can see Jeff typing. Most think he's typing the speech. Yeah. And then after the confession, he says, quote, I tried to give you what you need, end quote. And Jeff replies, quote, thank you. That is perfect, end quote. Now, only Joey and Jeff knows this video exists. And obviously the prosecution would have used it against Joey. Right. But now the prosecution wants to use the whole thing against Jeff. And Steve Romines doesn't like this. He says there are 3 different videos, but they're all filmed at the same location at the same time, one right after the other. Mm-hmm. The first at 7:07 a.m., which is Jeff writing, 7:11 a.m., the confession video and suicide note, and then at 7:13 a.m., Joey asking if that was what he wanted, and him saying it was perfect, thank you. And the judge allows the prosecution to play it before play the before and after the video.
Right.
And Joey said, of the videos, the first one is a check to see if the video camera is recording correctly and setting it up for the suicidal farewell. Quote, this is Joey, quote, I was sick of Jace and didn't want to be with him anymore. Jace would not let me go. He had threatened me and threatened my family. The only way was to completely absolve him of all responsibility. So Jace wrote out a script and told me to read it in front of the flip camera connected to my computer, end quote.
Wow.
I tried to give you what you need. That was perfect.
Man.
This, in my opinion, shows that Jeff is clearly in charge. And it's not Joey. Now, at first, what were you going to say?
Well, no, I mean, the fact that at the after part of the video when he said,
Thank
is this what you want? And and Jeff saying, yes, that was perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Come on.
Yeah.
Because that should negate that entire video.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, at first, Joey, who's scheduled to testify for the prosecution, but he takes the stand and he says he's not going to testify. But then he changes his mind and he comes back to testify. He's such a wild card for the prosecution and for the defense.
Sure.
But Joey tells the same story he's always told. There was meth, porn, three-way sex, and when Jamie leaves to go get more drugs for them, Jeff asks Joey, do you think anyone would miss Jamie? And when they have more sex, when they're done, Joey says he got up, got dressed, and then he turned around. Jeff and Jamie were struggling, and Jeff stabbed Jamie in the neck, and Jamie is crying. Joey, help me. Then Jeff shot him. Now, he says that he's like up against the wall. But in another story, Joey actually says, I was tied up. So
yeah,
I think everybody's culpable here, right?
Right.
Jeff told him they would wait until Lowe's or Home Depot opened, go there, get a plastic tub, get some lime. And Joey says he didn't even know what lime was. But Joey said that Jeff knew all about it from gardening and from watching a movie where he saw that lime covered up the smell of decaying flesh.
Yeah.
And again, he threatened Joey and made him help bury the body and the secret, and telling him that no one would ever believe that he, meaning Jeff,
Right.
no one's ever going to believe that I'm a killer, but they would believe that you are a killer. And Joey admits there was domestic violence between the two of them. When Jeff's attorney cross-examines Joey, he says, you're a thief, to which Joey admits to. And he says, you're a drug dealer, which Joey also admits to. And then he says, and you're a murderer. And Joey says, I am not a murderer. And Steve Roman says, you are a convicted murderer.
I walked right into that one.
Man.
He walked right into that one, right?
Yeah, he teed it up for him.
When Steve Roman says, you framed Jeff Mundt for murder, Joey says, quote, framed for murder? How do you frame someone for murder if they bury someone in a basement of a house they own and then for 6 months, fail to report it and engage in a relationship with that person, end quote? That's a good question. It's my question as well.
Yeah.
Again, I think they were both in on it.
Right.
The Commonwealth was not allowed to use Jeff's testimony from Joey's trial, where he's acting like a psychopath, because they tell the exact same story with the exception of who kills Jamie Carroll and one other little tidbit of information, and who was threatening the other to keep quiet. But I think if Jeff's jury could have seen the way he was so cold and calculating on the stand over Jamie's death,
Right.
it might have painted a different picture for the jury. But the Commonwealth does show a sex tape of Jeff and Joey, which shows that Jeff is the dominant. They show this tape in court.
Oof.
Jeff is not crying. He's not in distress. He's not afraid of Joey. And after this sex tape is shown, this is after Jamie Carroll has been murdered.
Right.
So they're like, does this look like a man who's afraid of the other guy? He's dominating him.
Yep.
And after this, the judge goes,
Need a moment.
I need a break.
Oh, man. Wow.
In closing, the defense says again that Jeff is a victim, just like Jamie. The defense calls a domestic abuse expert to show that Jeff was a victim of partner abuse. But she didn't really speak in terms of Joey and Jeff's relationship. It was more, skipping around it. But the defense did put it in the jury's head that she was an expert in their particular relationship. And the judge had to tell the jury, you have to unhear that.
Oh.
Well, you can't unhear anything.
Yeah.
Jeff's trial lasted 11 days. The jury deliberated for 8 hours. And Jeff Mundt is found, what do you think?
Guilty?
Not guilty
Really?
of murder.
Oh, man.
He's convicted of robbery, tampering with evidence. He gets 5 and 3 years for those two charges, respectively. But Jeff would serve one year
Wow.
and be released.
Jeez.
So Joey gets life, and Jeff gets 8 years and is released after just 1 year.
Man.
Now, he still faced charges for counterfeiting in Chicago.
Mhm.
But according to David Domine, I heard him speak on this in a podcast. He tried really hard to track down when Jeff was going to court in Cook County. He even drove to Chicago on the date that someone at the county clerk's office had given him, right?
Right.
But there was no court hearing for Jeff Mundt. And you know what? No one knows where he is.
Really?
There are rumors that he's moved to Europe. He certainly doesn't live in Kentucky anymore.
Yeah.
Many say he's changed his name and his identity. Well, he was ready to do that in Chicago with the counterfeit bills.
Sure.
Because of his plea deal, Joey Banis gave up his right to appeal his conviction. He's currently at the Lee Adjustment Center in Beattyville, Kentucky, which is a medium security facility. He will be eligible for parole in 2030, so in just 4 years, right?
Yeah. Right.
But this laptop that the Louisville Police Department couldn't do anything with, Joey's attorneys have a digital replica of everything on this Mac, and Joey recorded loads of audio without Jeff knowing. And it's pretty volatile, but there is evidence that Joey's telling the truth about the whole NSA thing, because it's on video, Jeff saying that his head hurts because of a bullet in his head from blowing up a car in Bratislava. Also, something that the Louisville police have now said is that their stories are almost identical. Jeff and Joey's stories are almost identical. Jeff says that Joey cut Jamie across the throat. Joey says that Jeff stabbed Jamie.
Right. What did the coroner say?
The autopsy shows that there were only stab wounds in Jamie's neck. No slashing, no cutting, which kind of proves that Joey was telling the truth.
Yeah.
And Jamie, who got off and only had 1 year and nobody knows where he is, was possibly lying.
Well, didn't they bring that up in the court?
They didn't.
Trial?
They did not bring it up.
Okay.
No, they did not. Now, the prosecution's theory, the Commonwealth attorney's theory now, is that Jamie was killed during this sex tryst, and it was all a thrill kill for either one of them or both of them.
Okay.
Joey now says that he and Jamie and Jeff would have sex, but the next morning Jeff had to go to work, and it infuriated him that Joey and Jamie would sleep in and then wake up and have more sex and do more drugs in his house while he was away at work. So was it jealousy? And Joey now says that when the murder happened, he was tied up again and that he was restrained for both Jamie and Jeff to have sex with.
Okay.
Now, still, Jamie Carroll is the victim here.
Right.
He was dealing meth and using meth, but that didn't mean he deserved to die.
Right.
Remember, his plan was to report to prison, get treatment inside, and come out and start a new life.
Yeah.
But he didn't get that opportunity. Jamie is buried in eastern Kentucky in his homeland, in the motherland, right?
Right.
When Jeff and Joey were arrested, Jeff was already behind on his mortgage payments. And the house at 1435 South 4th Street, which has had so much go on inside it, was taken over by the bank. It sold in December of 2011, and renovations began in the spring of 2012. The 3-level historic home was so badly dilapidated that more than 60% of it had to be gutted. And the house was saved. All the windows, but one, many of those are stained glass, and it has been completely remodeled. I read in one source that the family that bought the house had the home and the basement spiritually cleansed.
The smart move.
This house is clean.
And the dirt floor that was once a morgue and a hiding place for Jamie Carroll's body has been paved over. And the home even has an elevator in it now. I think they're both guilty of murder.
Yeah.
But that's just me. And I'm happy to hear anyone else's theories on the case as well. But that is the crazy and wild story of Jamie Carroll and his killers, Joey Banis and Jeff Mundt. And that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, my take on this is that who in their right mind would buy this house?
I think Jeff bought it for about $300,000.
No, I'm talking after all of this.
I know. And I'm about to tell you what the new people bought it for. I think they bought it for about $120,000.
Oh, okay. All right. Are they living in it?
They live in it now that it's all been renovated. Yeah. Yeah, they live in it now.
It's still got to be haunted.
Well, many of the houses in Old Louisville are haunted. Like they do a whole tour
Yeah.
about the haunted parts of Louisville and all these old houses, because you can't have houses that are 150 years old. We have a whole section in Lexington, Kentucky that's this way as well. And
Right.
you can't have houses with that much history because people died in those homes back then. It's not like now where it's like, oh, most people go to hospitals, which
Yeah.
are completely haunted, of course. But most people are in the hospital and they just don't die at home. But like generations of people would die at home, and there were murders and suicides and all kinds of horrible things that happened in these homes. And
Well, the first studio I worked at, which was in Cincinnati, Ohio, it was a residential. It was 3 stories, and the studio was, in the basement, completely redone. It was nice. And, but Roger told me the story that when they first moved in, he was down in the basement and he was cutting tape on the floor, and he had a single razor blade because it's the only thing he had. And he would splice the tape and put the razor blade down and tape the recording tape together, and then pick up and all of a sudden he turned around and the blade was gone. So it was late. So he went upstairs and went to bed, got up the next morning, opened a drawer to get some socks out, and there was that razor blade stuck in the drawer. So, and he swears that that's exactly how it happened.
I mean, why would he have any other reason to say that?
And the reason is because that house was owned. It was an old house. It was owned by a doctor who had surgeries down in the basement. I mean, that's the way they used to do it in the old days. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So
just like the doctor in 1435, right?
You got it. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
Let's just stack the bodies up in the corner.
Oh, let's get off of that creepy stuff and just go with a little stupid bless your heart.
Well, bless your heart.
All right, number 1, I'm calling, can I see some ID?
Okay.
Valerie Portlock, and this is a guy. Valerie Portlock, 25, turned on emergency lights and sounded an air horn in Hicksville, a city on Long Island, roughly 30 miles east of New York City, on a roadway Friday morning as he tried to pull over a van, investigators said.
Okay.
Except there was reportedly one problem.
What's that?
The van was filled with detectives from Nassau County Police Department's electronics squad.
Oops.
As detectives identified themselves, Portlock allegedly tried to flee the scene. Authorities claim he drove away, swerved into oncoming traffic, and eventually sped to the Long Island Expressway, where he was stopped by the Highway Patrol. Portlock was arrested without incident and charged with criminal impersonation, reckless endangerment, and fleeing the police. Yeah, he was released from custody on his own recognizance following an arraignment on that Saturday.
You know what? Whenever I think of like the guys in the van, it makes me think of Ocean's 11, where he's like, don't. And those detectives are like, take it easy, Radio Shack.
Yeah, exactly.
We got this. It's okay.
All right, number 2, the smell of unsuccess.
Yeah, we've talked about smells in this episode. So, yeah, I don't know.
According to the Clay County's Sheriff's Office, Liberty Police were searching for a person who a felony warrant was out for an arrest. The person was wanted for possession of a controlled substance. The suspect hid to avoid police, but apparently let out a fart so loudly it gave off his hiding spot.
Oh my gosh. Seriously?
Quote, we got to give props to the Liberty Police Department for using their senses to sniff him out, read a Facebook comment from the Clay County's Sheriff's Office.
But
Hey, there's nothing, I mean, listen, a fart's always going to be funny.
if you're a 12-year-old boy.
Well, if you get busted too. Number 3 and finally.
And finally.
On December 29th, 2018, Molette took an Uber. Molette is the name of the person.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I need to explain these things.
Yeah.
Molette took an Uber in Irwin, Pennsylvania, and left a bag containing 2 pounds of high-grade marijuana in the back seat.
Yeah, you're just talking about him like we know him.
Yeah, I know. You don't know Molette? Come on.
Yeah, Millette with the weed in the back seat.
Exactly. The driver received an alert from Uber that Millette had left a bag in his car. Upon searching the car, the Uber driver discovered the pot and called the police.
Ah, good for him.
Yep. The police then set up an elaborate sting operation and contact Millette pretending to be an Uber driver with his property.
Yeah, come back and get your pot.
Yep. Millett met with the undercover cop at a local McDonald's to get his bag. Now, according to the Pennsylvania State Police spokesperson, Stephen Lemani, Millett identified the bag as his and was extremely happy to get it back. And he even asked, quote, "How much of this did you guys smoke?" To which the undercover cop responded that none of the product was touched, according to Lemani. As jubilant Millett was getting ready to leave, the other undercover cops made their presence known and arrested him on drug charges. Police said that Millett then changed his story, this is the great part, and stated that the bag did not belong to him and he knew nothing about any drugs. The weed had a street value of several $1,000s, and Millett is facing felony drug charges, and his bail has been set at $150,000.
That's not mine.
Yeah.
That's not mine. That's not mine.
All that stuff I said before, and just ignore that.
Not mine. Not mine.
my God.
Not mine. Well, if you have a bless your heart, or you know somebody's heart who needs a blessing, or you know somebody who's leaving their weed in the back of the Uber
Jeez.
and he's calling the police, I mean, you got to hand it to the Uber driver. He could have just taken the
Yeah.
weed and he didn't.
Yeah.
All you got to do is go to hitchedtohomicide.com. When you get there, there's a pull-down menu, and while you're there, you can also suggest a case or tell us about your brush with true crime.
Yep.
That's my amazing husband out there.
Beautiful bride in the booth.
Join us next time on Hitched to Homicide.
Bye, y'all.